What does person-centered planning means for you today?
Well, the first thing I'd say is that the pioneers of person-centered planning were people with disabilities and their families who were able to get through to those of us who were trying to work out how to provide good support, that they wanted more in their lives than was available. Those are the sort of pathfinders. That was the case in the mid 1970s when we started, and that happened in the context of a large movement, social movement of deinstitutionalization in North America. Although people's lives were immeasurably better in smaller, better resourced, better organized local services, in our view, and in the view of many people with disabilities and families, it wasn't different enough from the institution. We were still congregating people, often in pretty big groups, 8, 10, 12, 16 people. We were building buildings around the way we labeled people. It was about inventing, it was about social invention. It was about the creation of new forms of service. That stream of innovation, social innovation, as the context for negotiating with people and the people who are close to them, a way to support what matters to them in their lives, continues. So now person-centered planning shows up in regulations, in rules. It's a have-to sort of process.
How the person-centered planning can be used to make the lives of people better in this context, in the context of a supported living partner, with the limitations and the good things that we have here.
Some of it is an organizational issue in my mind of how you keep alive the impulse that gave birth, the impulse that said, there are people here who want to fly, which is the best translation I can get of your name.
This is
Google
good,
translate, right? So 20 years ago, your president sitting over there beside you, and other families and allies in the service world or the professional world felt this impulse, felt the correctness of it, the importance of it, the significance of it. And with any organization, the question is how to keep that impulse alive, how to keep that impulse strong. Because that impulse will keep moving us to the next boundary. And so much depends on the social policy context that you're in.
Could you reflect on how do we ensure that people that have, as you said, harder personalities, people with complex needs, people with difficulties in verbalizing, how do we ensure that we hear their voices?
One of the things I learned in my very earliest days was that a dozen people that were classified as profoundly and multiply disabled were more different from one another than a dozen of us so-called normal people. Right? That the issue is not how to deal with a category. It's how to differentiate individual differences in body, brain, and mind, and notice how does this person relate to the world, which is something that families, direct support people have a better handle on a lot of the time than people who spend less time with somebody.
Labeling kind of creates a reductionism on the people's experience, and that we cannot really meet them when we think in labels, and that in order to be genuine and authentic and create real relationships, we have to go beyond labeling and beyond this wording that is very common to use.
But I think it's even a little bit more than that. It's that we have to embrace uncertainty, because it isn't just diagnostic labels. Any of us can get caught in a limiting story, right? That's one of the reasons that I'm kind of interested in the idea of citizenship as a way to think about, as one horizon to think about, not in the sense of voting and holding a passport, though those are fine too, but in the sense of being a contributing community member. One of my colleagues in Australia I just got a report from them today. They're doing a research effort into describing the contributions that people with intellectual disabilities and autism make to community life. Right? So they're trying to say the horizon is contributing citizenship, not just being comfortable. The most common error is to underestimate what people are capable of, given some mindfulness about the shape of their environment. We saw unpredicted and unpredictable growth in people as simply a function of opportunity.
And when we try to and when we want people to to live a good life and explore the possibilities in front of them, sometimes also there's risk. And yes, the question is it's about risk and choice and how this can be balanced.
We're scared, and the scaredness makes us mindless. We're not thinking about individual people. We're thinking about how would that look to our funder? How would that look to the people who grant us the right to do this work? How would this look to a court if we got sued? That's just a failure. Women with intellectual disabilities have a much higher probability of being sexually abused than non-disabled women do. That's a simple fact, I think. And so it's something we keep bringing into but for me, the answer is, how can this person be more resilient? How can this person be stronger? And that often isn't a simple, here's the technique that fixes it. It's more like, what kinds of opportunities make sense for this person and how do we pursue them? It's a matter of setting and role matching with interest and capability, with a big Seymour Saracen proviso that we're almost certain to underestimate the person's capability given that role in that setting, right? And this idea of the power of roles is a really useful one for me. For years and years and years, in North America anyway, planning was a group of professionals getting together, often without you there, without your voice, without anything but reductions of you to the psychologist reports, the occupational therapist reports, the physical therapist reports, the psychiatrist report, the social workers report, and then your fate would be determined, right? And mostly it was everything's fine. Let's keep doing what we're doing. Just continue with the usual orders. So that's nonsense, because we're not trying to fix, we're not trying to cure pathologies. We're trying to support people to have a good life. And there's a place in that for services, and there's a place in that for professional support. What I really want is a service that doesn't take over my life, a service that begins from who I am. So that's the kind of service I want, one where people are learning with me. What does she need in order to thrive in this context? What does bring the good things of life to this person? What does it take from us?